Exclusive inside Operation Mandre, cracking down on young gangs of violent offenders. The task force now busier than ever and pushing for greater powers. The search for the teenagers with a knife who attacked an Adelaide bus driver. The Premier on tour, the plan to turn South Australia's biggest polluter green. Are business owners at breaking point? Why the city's festival boost won't help some keep their doors open. Plus, bulk billing doctors' clinics in decline, where in Adelaide free GP visits are dwindling.
This is Adelaide's 9 News with Will McDonald.
Good evening. 9 News can tonight give you an exclusive insight into one of the most significant police operations in the state. It's a task force that has been averaging one arrest every 4 days. And senior officers hope that police will soon have new powers to arrest the ringleaders and break the cycle of youth crime in our community.
Violent home invasions committed by young and volatile offenders playing out night after night across Adelaide suburbs.
The brazenness is concerning. More often than not, we see violence associated with some of the offending. If they are challenged or they will fight back.
The specialised task force set up to tackle some of the most dangerous and confronting crimes in the state, as busy as it's ever been in its 21 years.
Operation Mandrake 2 will be launched effective tomorrow morning with a dedicated tactical team across the metropolitan area.
In the past year, Operation Mandrake has netted 86 criminals. That's one arrest every 4 days.
Our crime data would show that crime is slightly trending up.
Mandrake dealing with a criminal structure which constantly rejuvenates. Adult ringleaders at the head of mostly Indigenous gangs, recruiting young, vulnerable children into their mix.
The potential for risk and harm to themselves and other people is really high. An older person dragging a younger person into that type of criminality is concerning, absolutely.
The government recently proposing new laws that would crack down on those recruiters, set to carry some of the toughest penalties in the country.
Where someone is continually offending, that's the cases that we'll put before the court and make a very strong submission to keep those people in custody.
Police are continuing to work closely with community leaders to tackle the issues driving youth crime, constantly reassessing what more can be done to help. After 2 decades, Operation Mandrake's still evolving, with the hope it can eventually steer young people away from crime, rather than just arrest them for it.
And I think there's an opportunity coming up with the focus on youth crime for us to just reflect on the role that Mandrake plays.
Kelly Hughes, 9 News.
A bus driver has been attacked with a knife at Angle Park while attempting to stop a group of teenagers from opening the bus's fuel hatch. 3 boys can be seen boarding the bus on Medica Boulevard just after 10 last night. The driver says they got off shortly after on Trafford Street where the attack occurred. Police are still hunting the teenagers while the driver suffered a cut to his hand. 5 people were trapped inside a car after it flipped during a collision at Waterloo Corner. The sedan crashing with another car at around 3:30 this morning. Emergency crews helping those trapped get out of the car. They were taken to the Lyell McEwen Hospital with minor injuries. Police say the driver of the Hyundai ran off but was found a short distance away. He was taken to hospital as well. South Australia's biggest carbon polluter is making big moves in going green, with agreements signed today to try and secure hydrogen and gas. 9 News travelling to Whyalla with the Premier for the announcement. Peter Malinauskas embarking on a mission to sell his plan to unlock new wealth for our state.
Putting pen to paper. SA's biggest carbon polluter taking its next step towards a cleaner future.
South Australia has all the ingredients to be a winner.
With coal-based steelmaking soon to be phased out, GFG Alliance needs hydrogen and gas so they can create steel using electricity rather than coal, also known as green steel. The state government entering discussions with the steelworks to provide hydrogen from its $600 million plant that's about to be built in Whyalla. An agreement also signed with Santos for a potential long-term natural gas supply, helping this facility turn a major environmental corner.
8% of all of the world's carbon emissions come from steel production.
To compensate, the steelworks will need a lot of hydrogen every year to make the transition.
15 to 30,000 tonnes of hydrogen is where we've been talking about.
And this is where it will come from, the Premier giving our first look at the hydrogen plant. These announcements in Whyalla, the first of the state government's 3-day economic summit in the Upper Spencer Gulf, spruiking plans to unlock new forms of wealth for the state, which the Premier says will create thousands of new jobs and give more South Australians a better standard of living.
The average South Australian income sits at around about $77,000 per annum. In the mining industry, is in excess of $130,000 per annum.
Now tonight a community forum is underway here in Whyalla. As you can see behind me, it is a full house. The Premier is speaking at the moment, talking about his plans for this part of the state. Now tomorrow the Premier and other ministers will head to the far north, specifically to the BHP-run mine Olympic Dam, to talk about plans to expand the copper industry. Will.
Ollie Haig, thank you with the latest there. As the city bustles during festival season, our hospitality industry is in crisis. Many businesses struggling to break even. The cost of living and sky-high operating bills is making running a venue harder than ever, and there's now calls for more help.
A bustling city in the midst of festival season. Not enough to help some businesses, especially those on the city's edge, who are now at breaking point.
Our venue, like many other venues in South Australia, are doing it really tough at the moment. Our costs have gone up significantly.
Confession in Port Adelaide is one of the only all-accessible nightclubs in the state, but mounting financial pressures may force it to close its doors.
Wages have gone up, electricity has gone up, insurance, entertainment costs, so pretty much every cost that you can think of.
Costs that are plaguing many in hospitality.
Every venue owner that I speak to, every hospitality operator is struggling. There's not one that I've spoken to that's doing really, really well at the moment.
And when a venue closes, it's not just the owners who are impacted.
We've got entertainers, performers, staff that we support, and if we aren't here, we can't give them employment.
And businesses down the party strip of Hindley Street aren't immune either. Weekend popularity not enough to keep venues profitable. The blame being laid on a lack of weekday traffic.
Don't forget about the people who are here 365 days of the year, as opposed to those who don't.
Calls now for the government to step up and do more to support the industry.
At the very least, Peter Malinowskis needs to be sitting down with these hospitality businesses and listening to them, listening to what their message is, why they're hurting.
We're always looking for opportunities to provide cost of living relief, not just for families and households, but also small businesses as well.
We need to see the government step up now to support local businesses and venues, and if they don't, the venues that we know and love will not be here in a few months from now.
Gus McDonald, 9 News.
Police are hunting a man after a woman was assaulted in Salisbury North in broad daylight. Police say she was walking down Ralston Avenue towards Farley Grove when the stranger approached her, allegedly assaulting her around 5 yesterday afternoon. He was last seen heading east along Oddstock Street. The man police are searching for is described as being of Aboriginal appearance, in his early 20s with a slim build and curly hair. They say he also had a scooter with him. New details tonight on what is shaping up as the biggest overhaul of higher education in a generation. The Universities Accord final report recommending more places for low and middle income students.
On Smart Street, hoping to make the streets a little smarter.
Universities change lives if they're managed well, and universities can change nations.
Among the recommendations, 80% of Australians receive university or higher level technical qualifications by 2050, with more than 1 million extra Commonwealth supported places targeting areas of national skill shortages while making help payments easier to get and pay off.
I've made it pretty clear that my priority is helping more kids from the outer suburbs and the regions, more kids from poor families get a crack at university.
The review also wants more free bridging courses for students that don't initially qualify for uni and introducing payments for previously unpaid work placement training in nursing, care and teaching.
So that they can fill those jobs, drive that economy, as well as provide a good quality of life for themselves and their families.
But this would cost many billions of dollars to deliver, and we are certainly concerned that the government has really raised expectations.
Business and science groups have welcomed the report, while universities support it but are wary of costs, with suggestions tonight wealthy unis should help poorer ones.
I believe this is the most important contribution to tertiary education for decades.
This doesn't come for free, so that'll be a challenge for government in terms of how it closes the circle.
This is one of 3 reviews into Australia's education sector. The government believing longer-term reform can lead to a longer time in power.
The agreement I strike this year and the election that we fight next year will determine the future of public education.
The report tonight with the government. The first changes will be included in the budget in May. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
Despite victories in Parliament, there's trouble in the polls tonight for the government. Here's Nine's political editor, Charles Croucher.
In an exclusive poll just released by Resolve Political Monitor for our colleagues at the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age, it shows a continued decline of the government's standings. The coalition now leads Labor on primary votes, 37 to 34. This is the first time since the last election that the opposition has led the primary vote in this poll. Anthony Albanese remains preferred Prime Minister, 39 to 32, but that lead is just a quarter of the lead the PM held in May last year. This time next week, we'll know the result of the crucial by-election in Dunkley.
To developing news on the investigation into the alleged murder of Jessie Baird and Luke Davies. The search for their bodies has tonight expanded beyond Sydney, with detectives looking through a part of southern New South Wales. It comes after officers returned to Jessie's Sydney home, gathering evidence in a case where there seems to be more questions than answers.
Smiling with his cousins. A short video, now a treasured memory for Austin Baird, remembering his cousin Jessie as one in a million. You cared about everyone and left such an impact on every person you met. Gone but never forgotten, a vow from his cousin Luke. Words and flowers being left at the Paddington home where Jessie and his boyfriend Luke Davies were allegedly murdered.
The least I can do is come and give some flowers to 2 beautiful boys.
Inside, detectives seized bags of evidence, desperately looking for fresh clues as to what happened, allegedly at the hands of Beau Lamar Condon. The focus, the 5-day window of Lamar Condon's alleged movements, spanning a stretch of at least 200 kilometres. On Sunday night, Jessie and Luke were last seen by friends at the Beresford Hotel in Surrey Hills. 3 days later, police found blood-stained clothes in a skip bin at Club Cronulla. Those belongings leading detectives to Jessie's home, where they say they discovered large amounts of blood and a bullet casing allegedly from the constable's service weapon. On Thursday, police admitted they were searching for one of their own. It's alleged he had hired a white Hi-Ace van on Monday, which he drove to Newcastle before heading south to Grays Point on Friday morning. From there, the 28-year-old travelled to Bondi Police Station, charged that afternoon with double murder. Behind bars, but officers say he's not giving anything away, prompting a call from the top. The state's police commissioner today releasing a statement asking for anyone who has any information that could help to come forward, offering assurances that the force is working around the clock for answers, but warns that could take time.
I just hope that the boys can be brought home for their families to be laid to rest peacefully and respectfully.
In Paddington, Sophie Upcroft, 9 News.
Donald Trump appears to be staging one of the biggest political comebacks in US history. A commanding victory in the latest Republican primary, delivering a crushing blow to Nikki Haley in her home state of South Carolina.
A ringing endorsement on his rival's home turf.
This was a little sooner than we anticipated.
The race was called for Donald Trump the second the polls closed.
The Fox News decision desk can now project that former President Donald Trump will win the state's GOP primary.
Trump has now swept all of the early voting states and appears to be executing the biggest political comeback in Republican history.
I have never seen the Republican Party so unified as it is right now.
He is a mere heartbeat away from securing his party's nomination.
Joe, you're fired. Get out. Get out, Joe. You're fired.
A crushing defeat, Nikki Haley's campaign all but dead in the water.
I said earlier this week that no matter what happens in South Carolina, I would continue to run for president. I'm a woman of my word.
But she's vowing to still show up tomorrow and every day until Super Tuesday.
We need to beat Joe Biden in November. I don't believe Donald Trump can beat Joe Biden.
I think she'll keep fighting. I don't think she'll quit. And I hope she prevails.
A large turnout for a primary, a 90-minute queue to vote in some precincts. Many said they were undeterred by Trump's 91 criminal charges.
Absolutely, Donald Trump. If we don't get him in, we're doomed as a country.
We had no problems with, in the country when he was president, and we need him again.
The South Carolina primary is a strong indicator of who will become the Republican candidate. Since 1980, every winner here but one has gone on to take the party's nomination.
And at this point, the question is not if Nikki Haley will drop out, but when. In Columbia, South Carolina, Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
Well, Australia is leaving its mark on Taylor Swift as she continues her sold-out tour in Sydney. The superstar having a go at the Australian accent at last night's concert.
This song incorporates the word no several times. The choice is yours. You can sing it in American like me if you want, or you can just be yourselves. And you can say, you should have said no.
Close. In the crowd last night, the Prime Minister, who was seen singing along to her hit Shake It Off, and our Premier also there, Peter Malinauskas, posting a photo with his family, calling himself a Swifty dad. All right, now a look ahead to sport with Corey Norris. All right, Corey, Travis Head's back in some good form.
He is. He top scored again as the Aussies clean sweeped New Zealand in the T20 series. Good evening tonight. All the highlights of that rain-affected match. And it's fair to say the Kiwis went to water on a dominant day for the Aussies. And our Matildas, well, they've got one hand on a ticket to Paris.
All right, thanks, Corey. See you soon. The Adelaide suburbs, where it's getting harder to find a GP that bulk bills. The surprising data revealing the areas where you'll pay more to see a doctor. Also ahead, the delicate rescue mission to save an unconscious scuba diver. Firefighters in Victoria are in a race against time to stop an out-of-control bushfire burning northwest of Ballarat. Wednesday is looming as potentially the worst fire danger day the state has seen in 4 years. Crews on the ground and in the air are tackling the flames. The community was briefed about the threat this afternoon. 6 houses and dozens of sheds have been wiped out since the blaze started on Thursday. A man has told of the horrifying moment his family were ambushed in their Melbourne home by thieves armed with machetes and a gun. The offenders slashed their victims, then stealing tens of thousands of dollars worth of valuables.
The intruders arrive, masked, creeping towards the door. They're wielding machetes and know they're being filmed, but don't care. Once they're inside the Melbourne home, the terror begins.
They broke in with the pot. As you can see, they used whatever they could from outside. Why did I have to experience this in my life?
Gurinder Singh, his mother, wife and 2 young children feared for their lives as the 3 offenders, one armed with a gun, ransacked the property.
They dragged my mum out of the stairway and thrown her on the ground, and they broke her head. So she got a lot of blood coming out of it.
The elderly woman is now recovering at home with her injuries after being treated in hospital. Gurinder was also attacked, slashed multiple times with a machete.
My actions could have caused a lot of things to my family, and that could stay for the rest of their life. I didn't do anything, I just stayed calm.
The thugs taking off with $30,000 worth of valuables, including jewellery and $10,000 in cash, which the parents had been saving for their son's 16th birthday.
I had to give him whatever he demanded, and that's about it.
After the 10-minute rampage, the offenders fled. They were driven away by a 4th person in a getaway car.
Get a real life. Get a real life, real job.
To say the Singh family is shaken would be an understatement. They're already planning on selling up and moving.
We all working class families and don't feel safe. We don't want to be here.
Reid Butler, 9 News.
There was a complex mission off a busy Sydney beach today. A scuba diver in trouble, grabbed from the water, then put onto a boat and winched into a helicopter. Despite the coordinated effort, the fight to save the woman had only just begun.
It was a rescue as daring as it was dangerous. Plucked from a dive boat high into the sky a kilometre from the Collaroy shore. A woman in her early 30s winched to safety after finding herself in trouble on a Sunday morning scuba dive.
The decision was made to winch off the boat as there was other divers in the water.
Emergency services were called around 9:30, the rescue chopper quickly swinging into action. Within half an hour it was overhead, and just an hour after the initial call, the first phase of the complex rescue had been carried out after initial treatment on board the boat. But the job was far from over. The woman was flown to the headland at Long Reef, stabilised and taken on to Randwick's Prince of Wales Hospital, where the specialised hyperbaric team was standing by. It's believed the woman may have suffered a medical episode at a depth of about 10 metres, resurfacing so fast there were health concerns too about the sudden change in pressure.
When she surfaced, she was semi-conscious, but she was breathing on her own, and she was a bit agitated. So that's why she had to be stabilised before she could be flown.
The boat, operated by ProDive, had left Manly Wharf Club this morning. On its return this afternoon, workers were seen unloading tanks in preparation for their next dive. The woman, who is expected to make a full recovery, is tonight on the mend in hospital. In Collaroy, Matt Cannellan, 9 News.
Bunnings sausages were today served by a top international diplomat. US Ambassador to Australia Caroline Kennedy volunteering to work the tongs at a Canberra store today. A Bunnings sausage sizzle fan, Ms Kennedy was helping raise funds for cancer research ahead of an annual car rally in April. She'll hit the road in the 3,000-kilometre event from Adelaide to Perth. Well, we are potentially facing our driest February in 17 years. Chelsea Carey, the sunshine just rolls on.
Yes, Will, it's been hot and dry for most of the month. Today we managed a top of 31.3 degrees in Adelaide. Right now it's still sitting on 27. Of course, plenty of people have been making the most of the conditions here by the coast, cooling off by the water and enjoying the afternoon sea breeze. But although the sunshine makes for good beach weather, we are overdue for some rain. We haven't recorded any rain in Adelaide this February, and if that continues, which is likely, then it will make it our driest February since 2007. We also have a final burst of summer heat on the way. I'll have everything you need to know just a little later, Will.
All right, thanks very much, Chelsea. In the news ahead, bullets and grenades fly in the English countryside. The real story behind this urban warfare and how Australia is involved. All the details next. Plus the 120-year shipwreck mystery solved by pure chance off Australia's east coast. There are reports progress has been made in the hostage deal talks between Israel and Hamas. It's believed Hamas dropped some of its demands during negotiations in Paris. Meanwhile, police had to use a water cannon to disperse angry protesters in Tel Aviv, who have again taken to the streets to demand the Israeli government resign. The body of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny has been returned to his mother more than a week after he died in a remote Arctic prison colony. A spokesperson for the family says a funeral is yet to take place. The Australian Defence Force is playing a key role training Ukrainian soldiers for battle against Russian troops as the war in Ukraine passes the 2-year mark. Our troops heading up a special leadership program, and 9 News was invited to a secret training camp in the UK.
Gunfire from the roofs and the windows. Mortar blasts booming. Smoke grenades shielding troops trying to advance and seize control of each building. Urban warfare in the English countryside. There's no live ammunition, but it's no game. These battle-hardened Ukrainian soldiers are undergoing specialised training.
It was hard psychologically, mentally, because you're far from your family for extended period of time. My family had to escape from the territory where the war was going on.
Many have already fought against Russia's forces. This weekend marks 2 years since Ukraine was invaded. World leaders travelling to Kyiv as a show of support. something Ukraine is asking for more of from the West. A minute of silence in memory of our fallen heroes, President Volodymyr Zelensky says. Ihor has seen many fall while fighting in Kharkiv, Bakhmut and Donetsk.
I've been serving in the brigade that was on the front line when the war started, so yeah, we've been prepared. We are military personnel.
Playing the enemy here is a mix of Defence Force personnel from 12 nations, including Australia, which is running this leadership-focused program.
The idea with the scenarios is to replicate as much of the combat situation in Ukraine as possible. We have weapon effects such as that sound right there behind me to indicate artillery and indirect fire.
35,000 Ukrainians have completed this training since 2022.
And that covers everything from the field environment, in rural areas, in, as you see, an urban facility behind me, in trench warfare, in small arms instruction, so with their weapon systems.
This is the final phase of training for this particular group of soldiers. In the coming days, they'll be heading back to Ukraine, where they'll apply what they're learning here in real-world scenarios.
So we're definitely moving towards victory.
It's very humbling and privileged kind of feeling to be having this key role as part of the mission.
A war with no end in sight. In eastern England, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
15 people have been killed and more than 40 others have been injured when fire ripped through a 34-storey apartment block in eastern China. It's believed the blaze started on the first floor where many electric bikes were parked. Dangling several stories above the New York pavement, a resident has clung to a firefighter who was lowered down to rescue them from a burning building. Several residents hung out the windows, desperate to be saved when flames tore through a Harlem apartment block. One person died and 17 others were injured. Pope Francis has cancelled his engagements overnight due to a flu-like condition. A statement from the Vatican says it's a precautionary measure, but the 87-year-old has had several health problems in recent years. In November last year, he cancelled an international trip due to breathing difficulties. The accidental discovery of a shipwreck off the Australian coast has now sparked a worldwide search for the descendants of the 32 crew members on board. Coal ship, the SS Nemesis, vanished in 1904, and authorities want to finally give the families some answers.
The deep-sea mystery that stumped scientists for over a century. Now, a lucky breakthrough. A 73-metre vessel found off Port Kembla on the New South Wales south coast, identified as the SS Nemesis, a coal ship with a sombre history. It was July 8, 1904 when the vessel, under the control of Captain Lusher, left Newcastle. It was bound for Melbourne when it ran into the eye of a fierce storm. The lives of the 32 people on board lost.
It was a terrible time when this shipwreck occurred. Bodies were being washed up on the beaches, and we've never found out what happened to them.
But 120 years later, finally, answers. A remote sensing company which had been looking for lost cargo, stumbling upon something even more important, 26 kilometres offshore. The Nemesis shipwreck, 160 metres underwater, with signs it had been struck by a huge wave that overwhelmed the engine, sinking so fast there was no time to deploy lifeboats.
And they came across something that they weren't sure what it was. They sent the pictures in to Heritage New South Wales, and then with work between them and a great collaboration with the CSIRO, we can now say that we have found the SS Nemesis.
Now comes a new challenge, bringing closure to the descendants of those lost.
We don't know where all of the families are, and so for me, today's really a call out to say, please get in contact with either my office or Heritage New South Wales. We want to know you. We want to be able to tell the stories of what happened to your loved ones.
Helene Lambetsos, 9 News.
Aussie actor Elizabeth Debicki has won Best Female Actor in a Drama Series at the Screen Actors Guild Awards for her role as Princess Diana in The Crown. And she was obviously surprised by the win, accepting the award barefoot.
I didn't do the kind of check what you should do if you think you have to get up. So I did, so my shoes weren't really on my feet, so then I had to kick them off.
Margot Robbie missed out for her film Barbie, Oppenheimer winning all 3 of its nominated categories. Finding a doctor that bulk bills is getting harder. When 9 News returns, we reveal the Adelaide suburbs where patients are having to fork out more to see a GP. And the Aussie women helping other mums as they embark into the world of parenthood for the first time. Finding a gap-free doctor in Adelaide is getting harder and harder. A new report revealing just how quickly bulk billing clinics are disappearing in South Australia. It means we're paying more for a standard GP visit. Kelly Hughes has the details.
The snapshot by online health directory CleanBill reveals a steep drop in the number of clinics in SA offering a gap-free appointment over the past year, and it's being felt hardest in Adelaide's outer northern suburbs. In 2022, just over half offered bulk billing, and in just 1 year, that's dropped to 24%. The city close behind, only 15% of clinics now offering a gap-free appointment. And when it comes to the cost of seeing a doctor in South Australia, on average, we're being hit with a bill of $38, the highest out-of-pocket cost seen in the southern suburbs. Patients paying around $45. The best off those living in the outer north of Adelaide. Their out-of-pocket payments still below average at $28.
Two mums have opened a centre designed to remove the fear and isolation from early parenthood. The first of its kind space takes over where council-run parenting programs finish and aims to unite mothers going through the same things.
First-time mum Emily Angove.
It's definitely a full-time job that I probably underestimated before.
And 3.5-month-old son William.
Even just getting out of the house once a day is an achievement, and it's nice to come here and just have a space where there's like-minded mums.
That isolation that I felt with my first really kind of rocked me, and the connections with fellow parents and mums is just so important, so really excited for that.
Chelsea McRae is a second-time mum to a 2.5-year-old and now baby Cora. She's just finished a masterclass at From Day One, a purpose-built space for mothers and their babies.
Such important topics on postnatal anxiety and depression and sleep and all of those kind of things, and having all the experts in one place that you can come and see.
There are sleep consultants, psychologists, nutritionists, counsellors, even stylists to help with identity issues and building confidence.
It's not just educational, it's also bringing fun into that postpartum period.
Co-founders of From Day One and themselves mothers to 3 each, Kesha Hutchins and Ariel Bryant, have self-funded the business, which is a result of 2 years of studies with focus groups to determine a need in the community.
We interviewed women about their postpartum experience and found that we actually weren't alone.
No, there were so many women who felt the same way and were really craving that community.
Social connection is one of the real pillars of mental health, so being able to maintain that in a reasonable way with all the logistical challenges can be difficult for people.
The sessions and space are open to first, second, even third-time mums, like Eleni Matakis, who has been blessed with 2-year-old twins, and now Hazel.
Just hearing other people's stories and knowing that, you're not alone in some of the concerns and the worries that you have.
The cost, the women say they aim to keep it to what you might pay for a weekly brunch catch-up with a friend. Memberships are $25 per week. Non-members can pay $25 to $35 for a masterclass, and group appointments with specialists start at $39.
As for dads, well, they are included. Welcome at parent sessions, and there are plans for a fathers-only group. But the focus here is very much on mums and their well-being.
You're not raising your children the same way that your family raised their children. So yes, we want to create a village, but we want to create it in a modern sense.
Being able to feel that there's someone else going through this, it's less lonely, it's less scary.
Jo Hall, 9 News.
The AFL has detailed its response to a class action lawsuit over head knocks being led by former Geelong player Max Rook. According to the Herald Sun, Supreme Court documents reveal the league will argue clubs and players themselves are primarily responsible for their health and welfare. Dozens of retired stars have joined the dual premiership winners campaign for compensation. Time for sport now with Norris. Corey, the Aussie cricketers have made it 3 from 3.
Yes, Will, a clean sweep of New Zealand in their backyard. Up next, all the highlights as our own Travis Head is again amongst the runs. But with the series done and dusted, a new test awaits. And Geordie's big payday, and there's another sweetener on the way. Hello again. Travis Head has top scored for a second straight match, guiding Australia to a series clean sweep of New Zealand. In a rain-affected match, the Kiwis never really mounted a challenge as the visitors won by 27 runs.
Back at the top of the order with the series already won, today was a golden chance for Steve Smith. But that extra pace on the new ball, once again his downfall.
Oh yes, it's a little edge.
Victorian Matt Short took his place, benefiting from Eden Park's famously short boundaries. The venue leaving the Kiwis with little room to squander chances.
That's gone down.
Head dropped again, only moments later.
Unbelievable.
Third time lucky for New Zealand saw Short depart, but it wasn't a sign of things to come.
I think that's been dropped too.
Rain fell and play paused for 20 minutes before the big show picked up the pace, only to be dismissed on 20 as conditions deteriorated again. An hour later they returned, only for Travis Head to join his teammates in the stand permanently.
Should be out. Is out taken.
A fast start for the Aussies was worth its weight in gold. As the heavens opened up for a third time, the T20 became a 10-10. And despite early intent from the Black Caps to chase 126, it was the Aussies who were finding a way.
Is it going to be safe? No, it's not. It's taken.
As a typically tight Adam Zampa proved a thorn in their side.
Who's calling for it? Stark wants it and Stark takes it.
With 43 required off the last over, the 3-0 sweep was secured. A 2-test series, now the next hurdle for Australia to clear.
It's a bit of a strange game with the rain, you want to off and on, so we knew, the aggressive way is the way we want to play, especially T20.
Xander Maguire, 9 News.
The Matildas have all but locked in their spot at the Paris Olympics with a 3-0 win over Uzbekistan. It took just over an hour for the Tillies to get onto the score sheet, and their first goal came from an unlikely source.
Michelle Heyman used to be one of the first names picked on the Matildas team sheet. Last night was her first game back in more than 6 years.
And Heyman, it's in! Michelle Heyman's done it!
The 35-year-old breaking the deadlock more than an hour into the Aussies' Olympic qualifier against Uzbekistan.
Scoring is something that I love to do, and to be able to come back and get one in was, a dream come true.
Mary Fowler and Caitlin Ford also added their names on the score sheet.
Ford is there, and that's 3.
The Matildas now preparing for a flight home to Melbourne for the return bout with Uzbekistan on Wednesday night. A win or a draw, enough to get our girls to Paris.
I think the second game now is about us going out and playing our football and enjoying ourselves in front of our home crowd, and hopefully put on a good show for them.
There was more joy for their crosstown rivals, City, beating Bournemouth 1-0, while Arsenal moved 2 points behind league leaders, Liverpool, with a 4-1 thrashing of Newcastle. Trent East, 9 News.
In the A-League, things are going from bad to worse for Adelaide United, with their winless streak now stretching to 5 games after the Reds were rolled by Western Sydney. The Wanderers' Nicholas Milanovic doing his share of the heavy lifting with back-to-back goals before half-time.
Fires in the cross and Milanovic helps himself to a second. Easy as you like. 2 headers, 2 goals from 2 crosses. Too easy for Western Sydney Wanderers.
Yeah, the free-falling Reds now have the toughest test in the A-League, facing the top of the table Wellington across the ditch. Well, Richmond star Jayden Short says new coach Adam Uze has harnessed the Tigers' pain of missing finals to reinvigorate them. A host of big names will play their first game of the year on Tuesday as the date with a new enemy closes in.
It certainly didn't feel like it at the time, but this adversity is now providing a decorated group with newfound desire.
Yeah, it definitely does fuel you. It was a little bit odd, to be honest, and it's not a great feeling. Even just losing as many games as we did, it's sort of not as fun as it could be, and it certainly does motivate us to get back there.
After being managed last week, Tigers skipper Toby Nankervis and Dustin Martin are among the stars expected to be at Adam Uze's disposal against Collingwood on Tuesday.
We've had Uze come in and really invigorate us, so the boys are keen for another opportunity to hopefully get ourselves back there, but there's still a lot of work to do, and we're just looking forward to obviously this week to test ourselves.
It's a crucial audition with 13 days left until an opening round reunion with Damien Hardwick in the Gold Coast sun.
It won't be too good for his skin, to be honest, so he might want to come back to Melbourne soon, but it'll be pretty different seeing him, but he's an enemy now, so it'll be good.
Eagles' hearts were in mouths during Harley Reid's first game.
Holding the inside of his right knee. I don't think that's very good at all.
Thankfully, it was just a nasty cramp for the number 1 draft pick, who ended the night with 8 disposals.
I like the fact that he's trying to take the game on, and that's what we want to see from him. Would have been some really good learnings from Harley, and he'll take some good learnings away to put into his games going forward.
Joshua Dawn, 9 News.
Well, it's been a life-changing night in Mexico for Jordan Thompson. Less than 24 hours after beating Alexander Zverev, the inform Aussie toppled Casper Ruud to clinch his first ATP title.
It is joy for Jordan Thompson in Los Cabos.
Yeah, the 29-year-old also takes home $1.3 million and moves into a career-high world ranking of 32. Well, Will Brown overtook Chaz Mostert during a crucial late pit stop and held on to win the second supercars race of the season at the Bathurst 500. Brown's victory was his first for new team Red Bull. And finally tonight, we know British sport fans love getting under the skin of visiting Australians, and pranksters in Manchester did just that in the early hours of this morning, setting off fireworks outside the Penrith Team Hotel ahead of their World Club Challenge final with Wigan. Yeah, it could have proven the difference too, with the home side edging the NRL Premiers 16-12. I guess whatever it takes, Will, but fireworks is a bit extreme, isn't it?
Yeah, all's fair in love and international rugby, I guess. Yep. Corey, thank you. All right, really warming up as we begin another week. Chelsea has the forecast live from Somerton Park. First, though, a look at tomorrow's speed cameras.
Wake up and laugh with Adelaide's #1 breakfast show.
Rudits and Loz tomorrow on 104.7 Triple M.
For the latest Adelaide news and traffic.
Well, a Sunday night by the beach. Is there anything better than this? The water looks very inviting here at Somerton. In fact, my cameraman may have already had a little swim between crosses. It's a warm one today. We managed a top of 31.3 degrees in the city this afternoon. Right now, it's still lovely and balmy, sitting on 27. Mostly blue skies across Adelaide today. Just a little bit of cloud creeping in late this afternoon. Mawson Lakes and Elizabeth, the warmest spots in the suburbs, topping 32 degrees. Noarlunga made 29, a little fresher at Glenelg with 28. Dry across the state today with temperatures rising into the mid-30s around Port Pirie and Port Augusta. Coober Pedy made 38, Whyalla topped out at 33. It was a cool morning around Keith, Murray Bridge and in the Riverland too, but it warmed up quickly. Renmark ended up hitting 35 degrees this afternoon. We have just seen some cloud drifting over the southern coast this afternoon, and Hindmarsh Island was a little fresher, topping out at 25. Now, taking a look at the charts, then a ridge of high pressure is keeping conditions relatively stable across South Australia at the moment. But as winds turn more northerly in the coming days, we'll see temperatures rise. And there is the potential for some dangerous fire conditions midweek as winds intensify as a change sweeps across the state. If you're travelling tomorrow, well, Sydney, a mostly sunny morning, but there is a chance of a shower later in the day, top of 28 degrees. A possible shower around Brisbane and Melbourne too, but over in the west, looking warm and dry in Perth. Back home, and hot and mostly sunny across our north and west. Port Augusta up to 36 tomorrow. Port Pirie looking at 34. 31 in the Riverland at Renmark, and a dry day across the state, heading for 27 at Nurutpa and Naracoorte. Victor Harbour, partly cloudy and at 22. On local waters tomorrow, southeasterly winds around 15 knots, seas below 1 metre. So across Adelaide, a warm and and dry start to the working week with a mixture of sunshine and cloud. 28 the top for Noarlunga and Glenorg. If you're in the hills, 27 for Mount Barker. In the city, cooling off tonight down to 15 degrees. Tomorrow looking dry, partly cloudy and 29. Then Tuesday the heat really ramps up, sunny and up to 36 degrees. 32 on Wednesday, and then we have this cool change rolls through. Now Wednesday is the day we could see dangerous fire conditions with the hot temperatures and those gusty winds, but then we do have the cooler conditions behind it. So 28 on Thursday and Friday, in the mid-20s over the weekend, but at this stage still looking dry. So our long dry stretch looks like it will continue into March. Will?
All right, Chelsea Carey, thank you with the latest there. And finally, look at what's on 60 Minutes tonight.
Thanks, Will. Tonight...
What did it look like?
Like a wing. Is this the breakthrough?
It was a wing off a bloody aircraft.
The world has been waiting for.
That changes everything.
In the decade-long mystery of MH370.
A wing, it would stick out. You'd be able to pick it up very quickly.
Plus, where on earth have you been? Alex Batty's extraordinary escape.
This still doesn't feel real.
After being stolen.
He said to me I was kidnapped
by his own mother.
I don't think they'll find him. This world's a very big place.
That's tonight after Married. Back to you, Will.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for your company this weekend here on Adelaide's 9 News. The team will be back tomorrow night at 6. I'm Will McDonald. Have a great evening. Good night.